everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab. Our goal on this podcast is to have conversations that empower healthy churches. We love getting to do that, and we're glad to have another one today. And the we is myself and Casey, your hosts for the Church Leadership Lab. Casey, how are you today? What is... let's see. I like to think of an interesting question. I feel like that's been a theme.
You threw me off last week, man.
I know. I asked what would the most interesting. Everyone learned that you focus on a plant-based diet, and we want to encourage you.
We learned that last week. It was riveting. I can tell you something that happened over the weekend, which I'm the worst at. You know this. I don't know how to talk about things that aren't happening in real time, which is not good for podcast land. However.
You give away timelines left and right, but that's okay. We'll forgive you.
I know it's bad, but it's a big deal. My kid, I've talked about my daughter being a gymnast once. She won state gymnastics meet over the weekend.
Right.
She's like the individual, not just her team. Like she is the state champion, which is wild. So that just happened. I love it. It was really cool.
That's fantastic.
So that happened.
Isn't it cool when you like your kids? Yeah. Go to do something and then they do it and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's had a rough year. And so this was a nice, like little, God putting a bow on like all of her hard work. And like, we ended on a really good note. So it was nice.
That's awesome. I, similarly, my daughter auditioned to be in Lion King and got a role in it. So we're excited. She's young. She's 9.
Theater nerd.
Yeah. Well, this is like first role for her, so she was just happy to make it because it was like audition, like not everyone's gonna make it, those cuts, all that stuff. So she made it, and she will be a porcupine and an ostrich, and like a grassland animal in some scenes. So
not at the same time.
No, some costume changes in her future. So we're super excited.
Perfect.
It'll be fun. And actually, we didn't even plan this, but great kind of segue. We're talking about our kids, and we are excited to have a conversation today with Josh Denhart, who has spent a lot of time in kids ministry, but just ministry in general. Now, Josh is the founder of Lead Ministry, a master course and download system to help ministry leaders in all aspects, from volunteer training and retention, creating successful internship program, leading up effectively, community outreach, productivity, and so much more. And before launching Lead Ministry, Josh served as a children's pastor for over 10 years and founded Kid Min Science, science-inspired, Christ-focused resources, which includes the amazing chemistry show, family experience, day of science outreach events, as well as multiple VBS curriculum and parent resources. Josh is a published author, children's magazine columnist, conference speaker, and occasional local TV personality, and we are really excited to have him on the show. Welcome to the Church Leadership Lab.
Hey, thank you so much. And I got to say, Casey, I get the idea of your daughter winning, right? My daughter does competitive dance, and it's so fun. She'll go to some dance tournament with 350 kids, and she'll win the whole thing, right? Super fun.
The whole thing.
Now, the whole thing.
I love it.
Now, I have to say, she went to state and she got 5th. So that's fine. But first for your daughter, that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe our states are different sizes. Maybe it was very similar. So
yes, but nonetheless, it's fun to see when one of your kids, whatever they touch, kind of turns to gold. That's special.
Yeah. It really is. And
love it.
Well, one of the things, Josh, we wanted to jump in. We're going to talk about all things recruiting, retaining volunteers. What it look like to have a great volunteer culture, all of that. But before we jump into that, one thing we love to ask everybody, what's something that doesn't make the public bio, but all your friends and family would know about you?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows this because I kind of keep it on the down low, but I have a massage chair. Okay.
I love it.
It was completely out of character. My wife and I are not impulse spenders whatsoever. We just are kind of like, I don't think that's necessary. It's not a long story. It's not necessary to share, but I got a massage chair and it looks like a space vehicle and it completely rules.
Now, was that like, cause we'll be, I'll walk through Costco with my kids or whatever, and they're like, sit down, try the chair. My kids are like, Dad, can we do that? Can we buy one? I'm like, no. But was it that sort of thing? You sit down and you're like, this got to come home with us.
I'll go brief. So we were at the Iowa State Fair, which is kind of a big deal in Iowa. Not only that, it's on like the 1,001 things that you need to do before you die, whatever. Yeah. So we were at the Iowa State Fair. Oh. They have this whole bank of these chairs. Everybody's feet, they're tired. Their back is tired from wingdinging around the state fair. I, of course, go seek those out. As a matter of fact, I would go to the mall. My wife would be like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go to Brookstone and go sit in the chair. She's like, oh, my word, this is so embarrassing. So I would just go, right? So I was sitting in one, and the guy was trying to sell it to me, and I just didn't have the heart to go, bro, it is so not going to happen. And so then I said, okay, you see that pretty blonde that's walking up? He said, yeah. I said, that's one you're going to have to sell. So she sits next to me. She's getting the full treatment. I look over at her and I say, what do you say? And she says, totally out of pocket, let's do it. And I was like, what just happened? So that's how it went down.
I love it.
But it gets used.
She sounds like a wise woman.
A wise woman gets used multiple times a day. So it's not like, listen, somebody out there has a hot tub and they used it for the first year and then it kind of just sat dormant. This has not been one of those purchases. That's awesome.
That's good. Well, Josh, I would love to know more about, maybe you could provide like an affiliate link to your space massage chair later. But in the meantime, I would like to talk about volunteers.
Sure.
If we can. So we know that it's very difficult, or can be very difficult, to recruit and retain volunteers. So if you could wave a magic wand, snap your fingers, and like all church leaders are adopting a certain practice in recruiting of those volunteers, what would your magic situation look like?
Okay. So the magic situation would be no more pastoral pleas from the pulpit. That's first. Number two, there would be no more accosting volunteers in the hallway. I call that drive-by recruiting, right? Where you're stalking, you're chasing someone. Listen, if people are dodging down a hallway to avoid you, that's an anti-recruiting strategy. I would say no more bulk emails. And for extra cringe-worthiness, let's not put their name in the CC, let's put it in the BCC, right? Listen, none of those things work. They are literally fail. Oh, here's another fail. How about the emotional, heart-rending video? You get 30 seconds and you're banking on this being your one and only save, and nobody comes to the table to sign up afterward. Listen, I've done these things. They simply don't work. So my first wave of the wand, how about this? The wave down would be to stop all of those things. The wave back up would be what I call the tap on the shoulder. The tap on the shoulder it's nothing short of a personal invitation, whether it's eye to eye, at least voice to voice, where you are crafting a compelling vision that fits this one unique person. Listen, recruiting is not scalable. What does that mean? That means that I can't do a bulk send and get 50 people to say yes, or the pastor preaches some sermon and he has pity on you and he makes some plea. It's not going to work. So it takes an individual ask, one person to another. So the wave down, stop doing dumb things. The wave up, get in people's worlds and start talking to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, if you're in ministry, then you know church operations can be a huge challenge. There's a lot to do, little time to do it. And whether it's just you or you have a team, my guess is you have a full plate. So how do you do things like communication and engagement, stewarding your finances, managing your digital presence, fostering community, and so much more in a way that builds a healthy church? Well, answering that question was the goal of creating the Guide to Healthy Church Operations. We wanted to take our 40 plus years of experience serving the church, combined with wisdom from various experts, to provide a blueprint for how you can navigate the ever-changing world of church operations. In this guide, you'll find things like how to improve member engagement and participation, building into staff and volunteers, making better decisions with clear metrics, the essentials of financial stewardship for churches, and so much more. And of course, we wanted to give this to you for free. So there's a link in the show notes to download the Guide to Healthy Church Operations. And we would love for you to grab a copy and use it to help grow a healthy church. Yeah, absolutely. I think it totally does. So like practically, what does that look like? Because, what I don't think you're saying is, hey, pastor of a church with 2 staff members, you need to personally be calling every person. Like, I think that there are some ways in which you maybe enable other people, empower other people to do that. So help us practically to where, like, how does that play out at churches of all sizes? Because it's different at a church of 200 to
versus
2,000.
Yeah. I mean,
20,000.
How about this? So. I worked at a church of 2,000 and I inherited a very challenged situation. That's another whole podcast. But I did not have anybody that I could dip to. And I sat in front of a list of no list. It was a bunch of lines on papers that needed to be filled with good, godly, and qualified people. Yeah. I was completely overwhelmed. I looked at the phone. I looked to heaven. I could get emotional. And like all joking aside, I have goosebumps. And I looked at this list of 150 blank spaces, and I was utterly overwhelmed. I was a chemistry teacher of all things. And I literally looked to heaven. I said, God, I don't think this is reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable. Yeah. And then God reminded me, this is a 2-part little God moment in a sense for me, to where it was as if the Lord was saying, hey, what has volunteering done in you? And I was like, oh, wow, I got a bunch more friends because when I serve next to somebody, I actually really get to know them as opposed to warming a seat in an adult Sunday school class or something. So I got to know people. I actually know your word, God, better because I was forced to know your word. I actually have real-time experience of trusting in you. And the list goes on. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, yeah, God, volunteering did that for me. And then like the 1-2 punch, it was as if God said, do you think that I'm capable of doing that very thing in the people that are on that you haven't found yet, that I'm going to provide for you? Do you think that I can do that in their lives? And I just burst into tears and I was like, I'm in. And so now I was rushing to the phone because I wasn't, I felt now that this was a part to my pastoral calling. I wasn't slot filling. Yeah. I was actually calling people towards an opportunity for a deeper walk with Christ. Right. And I can completely get behind that. Yeah. So absolutely, that was huge.
It's equipping the saints, right? And
it's time
equipping the saints for ministry, stepping into what God has for them.
Yes.
Now I know this. I know oftentimes, there's kind of the 20%, 80% rule. So 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work, and sometimes that can be felt. And my question is, how can church leaders kind of look to move the needle on that 20% and take people from, especially as we were talking about equipping the saints, take people from observing and maybe consuming to participating and being a part of the mission?
Okay, 2 parts here. First, let's like have I call this God's math. Okay. Jesus said these words, never forget it. The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. So if you're having the 80-20 thing, you are experiencing a good case of the normals. This is ubiquitous. This is a time tested. Jesus himself said, harvest is plentiful, workers are few. That is a fact. You can take that to the bank. So this idea of God's math, I don't want to feel defeated when I'm actually experiencing that very few people are actually actively laying up treasure in heaven through serving. Yeah. I have to get used to the idea that it's normal. If all of a sudden, if I'm having some expectation that 80% are going to be participating, I think that that's a self-defeating thing. I don't even think Jesus was experiencing that. Can I have an amen?
Right.
Amen. You got it.
So that's first. So it's having a go ahead, Casey, you were going to say?
No, I was late to the amens. I didn't want to feel left out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because it's just true. And so all of a sudden, just getting used to the idea that we're going to go to war with fewer people than we think we need.
Yeah.
I'm going to own that. Now, the second piece is, how do I get more people to participate? There's plenty of things, but one that I think is very important is I want to actually highlight the opportunity and impact, but low light the sacrifice. Hear me out. I've known a lot of leaders who are like, oh my word, don't show them what's behind that door, right? Don't even tell them that. No, I let people know, hey, listen, if you are going to participate, let's say that I'm going to be recruiting Casey right now. Casey, I want to let you know, girl, you have a yes face. You have a yes face. You don't carry a stress face. And so for you, like as I've prayed about this, I've envisioned the cutting edge and growth edge of our church is young families and young moms. They are stressed to the max. I want you to utilize that yes face and to be like at the check-in counter and help these young moms and speak a word of encouragement to them. I want to let you know, it doesn't require all of Sunday. Like it's a small role. It's extremely important, but I want to let you know, you're definitely going to miss the first, maybe second song of the worship set every other week. And I don't want to hide that from you. That's going to be something that's a reality of this role. However, your yes face can absolutely make the difference of a young mom who is like, I don't even think this is worth it. This was too hard on me today. So listen, Casey, here's what I want to say.
Right.
I think you should consider this. I think you'd be fantastic at this. In conclusion, though, I want you to feel the freedom to say no. If you listen to God and he says, do this, by all means, don't disobey. But if you don't think you should do this, please do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's like a sample for how to recruit somebody. Now I'm going to say one more thing about this 80-20 piece. Like, make it simple to onboard someone. I have known churches where it's like, wow, you need 4 different biometric scans. You need a blood sample. You need a retina thing. You need me to go to 8 different classes in this succinct order. And you're wondering why people aren't playing ball with you? That's lame.
Right.
So, simple onboarding process, recruiting directly to a person and sharing with them how they themselves, with their unique gifts, abilities, makeup, can make a difference, but not telling that it doesn't cost them something, because it does.
Yeah.
That was really good, by the way. Like, I know that you were just using me as an example, but I could see the kids check in at my church. I could see some of the faces of the moms just like me. And you had me at young. You used the word young at least 2 times. I was like, he's putting me in a bucket of young moms. So yes, you have my yes. But
what I hear, Casey, really, she's volunteering.
Okay, but watch this,
But
Casey.
It was very personal.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And I spoke to who, like, I know you, Casey. I spoke to who you are. You are a yes face person. Yeah. Now, by the way, if you weren't a yes face person, I would have found a different place for you.
Right.
And so it comes down to personalization, not like cookie cutter. Come on.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, it was a very good
I'll see you next Sunday.
Absolutely signed up. I'm there. Yeah. I am already there. Like, you've already got my background check. Just throw me on the schedule. It's good.
Yes. But
I love that approach.
Notice.
It was very personal.
Yes. Now, Casey, did you notice that I gave you the largest escape hatch known? I literally I closed the conversation with, please say no. Now, that sounds super counterintuitive.
Absolutely. It's not, though. It's not, because we get into this, why do people say no? And it's what is the commitment? This is going to take all of my time. I want to serve, but so we're I'm going to shift a little bit into retention, because clearly recruitment, you are an all-star of recruitment, but if only 20%, which is the normal, I like that you said that's the case of the normals. So if we've got 20% and we're crushing it with 20, and they're the right people in the right places, keeping them from burnout is the other half of the puzzle, right?
Really is.
So talk to me a minute about that side? How do I retain and strengthen my volunteers?
Okay, so I would say this. Those who haven't mastered this, they are on what I call the revolving door of volunteers. Yeah. And it is excruciating. And so they're just on rinse and repeat. And by the way, before too long, whether you're at a church of 200 or 2,000, you've moved through everyone because of your poor practices.
Everybody.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So here's what I got to say. What I'm getting ready to say right now, this one is painful. It is helpful, but it is painful. And so here it is. Volunteers do not quit ministries. Volunteers quit leaders. People quit leaders. They don't quit ministries. And so all of a sudden, when somebody comes to me, typically at the worst possible time on a Sunday morning, and they'll say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that God is calling me to do something different. Ouch. Now, if you pull all of that away and you truly get down to what's going on, I haven't served them well enough. It is very rare that somebody truly feels that they are being called to junior high and they're done in the children's ministry, or they're truly that's rare. That happens. But by and large, people are saying, you know what? I think God is calling me to stop doing this because it's not worth the pain and the strain on my life. God wants me to be healthy, and you as a leader, you're teeing this up in such a way that it's harder on me than it needs to be. And so people quit leaders. They quit me. They don't quit this ministry. Okay, there's the big toe stomp for the day. However, how do you fix that, right? So there's this thing called the lead ministry retention framework, and I won't be able to touch all of these in depth, but there are 10 variables. And some of those variables are, number one, a sense of purpose. Have I communicated the vision where they're like, man, kingdom work is really happening here? Sense of purpose. Number two, do you, Casey, have friendships like with the other lady who's doing check-in and you actually cannot wait to see her? That's a piece. Number three, appreciation. Now, hear me out. A lot of leaders are like, Josh, I told them thanks so many times and they still quit. Guess what? That is 1/10 of what you need to do. There are 10 factors in order to keep somebody. But watch this. You have to be able to appreciate somebody in a manner that matters to them. Do you know them? Do you know what their love language is? Do you know if they're a Starbucks or are they a, God forbid, a Duncan person? You see where I'm going with this? Do you really know them? Okay, so that's one. Another one is metric for success. Casey, do you, as the person who I just recruited, do you know at the end of doing check-in whether you whiffed it, whether you hit a home run, or whether you knocked it out of the park in a grand slam? Can you measure for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Another one, workload. By the way, workload cuts both ways. I would be, now I'm just being transparent. Casey, I know you. You are a highly gifted person. Do I think that check-in is really going to give you the muscle flex that makes you really get your, right? Okay, so workload cuts both ways. On one side, you've got boredom. On the other side, you've got burnout. I am far more concerned about boredom. So I would think in my mind, man, Casey, she's a player. Is this going to really excite her enough? So workload. Another one, ownership and influence. We skipped this one earlier. I was going to mention it, but I'll do it now. Leaders stay where they have say. So all of a sudden, Casey, I'm going to assume that you are a highly intelligent person and that you literally spin big wheels in your work life. And I'm going to look to you to go, what are we doing that could be better? Right? Because if you have say in how this goes, you're going to stay. Giftedness is another one. Philosophical agreement. Do you agree with how we're operating? Not whether you think the kingdom is being impacted, but do you agree with how we go about doing things? And the final thing is straight up being an engaged leader, me wing-dinging around and hanging out with you for a few moments, being in your world, knowing your world, dropping you a postcard, sending you a text, that's whatever, being an engaged leader. So those are some big ones. Any that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, I think the understanding that, like, if people are not engaged and knowing that, like, okay, my time and my ability and my gifting are being utilized.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a quick way for people to be like, this doesn't really matter. I think that
Big
one.
time.
I think the second being, is there connection with others? Because so often our community forms around the things that we do and the mission that we're on and the things we're pursuing in life. And so I think being able, I know that can be tricky sometimes because you can't just manufacture friendships, but are you providing those opportunities for relational connection to form, which will help in ensuring people are really bought in?
Okay. Yes. So watch this. Here's what I'm seeking to do, to be dead honest with you. You guys know, I want to make it very, very, very painful and difficult for somebody to leave and say they don't want to do this anymore. And one way is they're literally relationally adhered. And they're like, man, these are my people. This is community. Just far harder to say, I don't want to do this anymore. So,
right. Yeah.
That's just a quick flyby. There's a lot going on there, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, man, I think it's worth people's time to go back through those and write those down and really think about where do you have an opportunity to maybe increase some energy and output in, there's probably more than just one from that list. But I think that's super helpful. Could you, if somebody just heard that though, and they're like, I want to dive deeper, how would they do that? Where would they find that resource from you?
Okay. Our flagship course at leadministry.com is called Lead Volunteers. And it is like 75 different videos. They're 3 to 5 minutes long. We walk through that framework and, sense of purpose, appreciation, relationships. And then we actually have resources, downloadable resources to go, okay, wow, what he said is good. I got my heart stirred. But most courses stir your heart. We have a whole bunch of done for you, tangible, like print it, implement it, like by the end of today. Here's an example. I call this thing, Scott, the calling scripts with no asker agenda. Now, I led a staff team, and a lot of these people were quite a bit younger than me, and they were like, yeah, I don't really want to call anybody. I want to text them. And I'm like, son, no, you don't understand. And they're like, but I don't know what I'm going to say. And so I have created a whole packet of calling scripts that's like, here's 7 different ways that, listen, here's the thing, Casey, without question, you could call somebody on the phone. You could wing it. You could encourage them. You could pour into them. And they would walk away going, oh, my word, I feel great. Well, I can do that as well. But maybe one of my staff members or a key volunteer, they don't know how to do that. And so if I don't want to expect that they would know how to do that. So I've created all these resources to go, here's the deal. Just do this. Just read that. Right? And so it's making it, I call it DFY. You guys know DIY, right? Do it yourself. Ain't nobody got time for that. I call it DFY, done for you. And so that's leadministry.com.
I love it. Well, we'll make sure to link to that as well as some other things. But I just wanted to make sure as we hit on that, to kind of highlight where people could dive deeper. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in that list of 10 was, and I called it out, that boredom versus burnout.
Oh, my.
I do think that, certainly burnout among pastors, among those in vocational ministry is a real thing, but so is burnout among volunteers.
Yep.
And so how do you balance kind of the needs of the ministry, the work that needs to be done, the volunteer positions that need to be filled, all of that? How do you balance that with the capacity of volunteers, knowing that we don't have endless capacity? There are people have life things going on.
Big time.
How do you do that? How have you seen people do that well?
Okay. Let's first start by this. Everybody has a different carrying capacity. Different people have different shoulder sizes, let's figuratively say. And what I'm going to say is, when I first started, I did this anecdotal survey, and it took a long time, but we took everybody and we found out, who are they? How often are they serving? And then we had this graph, and I was like, hey, man, Todd, that guy is serving 96 slots a year. That's more than 2 times a week. Something's wrong here. Well, I went out to lunch with Todd. He was happy as a lark. He had massive shoulders in terms of his carrying capacity. So I was mistakenly, in my naivety, thinking that because he was serving so much, clearly he had to be unhealthy. However, there was somebody else who will remain nameless. I'll call her Ann. I'll call her Ann because that was her name. And Ann, she said that she was serving less than once a month in the nursery, and she felt like she was carrying the church on her back. So time out real quick. That's not to say that one is better than another. That's saying that I, as an engaged shepherd, I need to know my sheep, who can and who can't. And I'm not going to expect her to do more. She's got a crazy life with 4 small kids. Slow your roll. Okay, so first, you got to understand people have different carrying capacities. However, once I've got them into volunteering and serving, now me as an engaged leader, I am literally wing-dinging around the church, and I am asking Casey and her counterpart, because I always want to have people serve in teams and serve together. It's better together. But I would say, Casey, how are you? And then I don't care what hang on. I care what she says. But I'm more looking for her body language. How does she say it? She's like, pretty good. Or I'll say, hey, how is this role going for you?
Yeah.
Him and Ha, look down. Enough said. It's not going as well as it could. So I'm intuitively using high EQ to find out what's going on in people's lives. Now, Casey, you have children. When you see that they're looking a little peaked, you might put your hand on their forehead. Why, pray tell, would you do that?
Check the temperature. I'm trying to see what's going on in their body.
Okay, so watch carefully. Me asking these kind of just generalized questions, that's me putting a hand on a forehead. And if I saw, Casey, that your body language wasn't, like if I had you fill out a survey and you said, click, yes, it's fine here. That's not much data. But if I see how you answer and I'm like, ooh, I don't think everything's going there. The next thing as a parent is you'd plop a true thermometer in their ear or in their mouth. You would go deeper. And so I might put a hand on the forehead, just a conversation, but then I might take him to lunch, or I might take him to coffee, or I might call him on the phone and ask far deeper dialogue. And I would say, hey, what are we missing? Where aren't we succeeding? Or here's a crazy question. How am I driving you crazy? I'm not asking if I'm driving you crazy. How am I driving you crazy? And they're like, and I'm like, no, that one right there, whatever just came to your mind. Well, I think that the yellow cards that you have us fill out, I think they're just dumb. Does anybody even do anything with those? And I'm like, wow, you brought up an interesting point. So by going deeper and you telling me that the yellow card is dumb, that we're getting somewhere now. You see where I'm going with that. So burnout is a very personalized thing that I truly have my antenna and I'm looking for people because it's just that important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the way you ask those questions are so important. Go ahead, Casey. Sorry.
Well, there was not a single, there hasn't so far been a single measure that you've mentioned that had anything to do with the actual job or like functionality that person was filling. It wasn't about check-in. It wasn't about the coffee. It wasn't about the ushers. It was about the person, their capacity, their spiritual giftings, all of that, which is a lot harder. You know, it's like delegating is hard because it takes more time as a leader to teach you the thing. It's easier to do it myself. It's so much easier. Like, hey, do this check-in, click here, print the tags and be on your way. It's 1,000 times harder and more time consuming to do all the things that you said. But I would guess that if I take the time to do those as, and like weigh it as importantly as the job that I need done, retention is not going to be a problem because people are going to be so darn happy and feel so needed and known and connected. I like that you said adhered. Like I'm adhered to this community. Why would I leave? Like retention seems to just not be a problem.
I could tear up because what you're saying is truly my heart. It's truly my heart. The ministry is people. The okay, check-in is a means for me to pastorally shepherd and care for you, Casey.
Right.
And by the way,
Right.
you doing check-in is your means to serve and care for some other person who's coming up to you. It's you looking into their eyes and going, oh my word, like your kid's teething. Let me stop everything. I've totally been there. I get it. I love you. You're fine. We have a meal train. Can somebody bring you a meal, sweetheart? This is the ministry, right? It's about people, and everything else falls in place after that. Thank you. What you said makes my day.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I think even that, just that sentence, right? If there's one thing you hear, it's about people.
100%.
Like, it's not about get the job done. It's about shepherding and loving people. And man, that's so good. Well, I know we're coming up on time here shortly, but I do want to ask this again. Our whole podcast is about conversations that help empower healthy churches.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things that make up a healthy church. And so we love to hear everyone's opinion who's on this show. What is one essential component of a healthy church?
Yeah, I would say the single indicator that's going to be a church that grows and is healthy is whether that church multiplies itself through volunteers or whether they are seeking to do all the work themselves. Hear me out. Yeah. You referenced it already. Ephesians 4:11 and 12. Pastors their job is not to do the work of the ministry. Let me say that again. Hey, pastor, whoever's listening, your job isn't to do the work of the ministry. Your job is to build the body to do the work of the ministry. Yeah. The work of the ministry is their job, and I have a job. It's building those people to do the work of the ministry. So I would say, problem, the church, here's a serious problem. The church will never be able to hire to meet all of the needs. Yeah. First of all, that's never going to happen. Second, it was never intended to happen. The problem is the church will never be able to hire to meet all the needs. The solution is pastors need to build the body. Now, hear me out. I travel the country. Yeah. I speak at 65 different churches every single year. I see a huge disparity and a huge problem with large and wealthy churches. They simply don't know how to develop other leaders. Why? Because they have enough financial wherewithal to simply hire that out. And so then they, as a leader, they have atrophied muscles because they're not figuring out how to develop another human. That's the key. So smaller churches, of course, they're forced to build the body and expand the mission and take more ground. So by doing that, it breeds health. So all to say, if you are a multiplying church, you're on the right track. If you are an adding church, that'd be so different. If I take my phone, remember when we were bored to death in math class, and we would take out our calculator, which did not used to be our phones, and I would go 2 + 2, and I would just like manically hit and see how high I could get the number to be. Well, then all of a sudden you'd figure out if you go 2 × 2 and hit it, wow, that's a lot more fun. And that just explodes. And so it's really about building the body.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think this conversation has been really helpful, and there's so much that I think people can take away, can dig deeper into. We do have, we're not done yet. We have our final 5 coming up. Before we jump into that, though, could you just give people where they can go to dive more into a lot of what you've been sharing, but also the resources that you've created to really help take steps and grow in these areas?
Yeah, I would say 2 great places. Number one, leadministry.com. It's your one-stop resource for 11 different full-length courses. A lot. I did a free webinar today. I do a lot of these things, so people can join there. Also, I have a podcast myself. It's called the Lead Ministry Podcast. And so it's kind of a fun thing just like that. So I would say those 2 places and spaces would be a good place, leadministry.com being the primary.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to link to those so it's super easy for people, but definitely would encourage those of you listening or watching this to check those out. Now, you ready for our final 5? We're going to jump in. Does that work?
The fast 5, right?
Yeah. Yep. Final 5. Here we go. Rapid fire coming at you. One book that you would recommend to church leaders.
3 Signs of a Miserable Job by Patrick Lencioni.
I love it. Very good.
Josh, what is the last thing that you listened to?
The Grateful Dead. I am a closeted Grateful Dead fan. It's out. It is what it is. I am not ashamed of it. I love the Grateful Dead.
I love it.
Wonderful.
I picture like the ideal afternoon, just some Grateful Dead on, sitting in the massage chair.
Yes.
Just feeling it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite piece of technology? And the only rule on this one, we do say you can't say your phone because
no. I hate my phone.
Okay.
I would say my home studio. And so nice. I love it that I have 3 buttons that I can click and truly have a world-class presentation right here in my home. So my home studio.
Love it.
Perfect. Josh, number 4, is there a quote or some piece of wisdom that has stuck with you throughout the years?
Yeah. Success in ministry is not what you do. Success in ministry is what happens if you never returned. If you leave and everything falls apart, you still got work to do. But if you leave and the thing actually gets a little bit of lift, that means you've been successful. Paul didn't stay as the everything pastor of Philippi. He passed it on to somebody else.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's again, another thing for church leaders to think about. How are you, like you mentioned, multiplying? How are you multiplying? How are you pouring into people? How are you growing in a way that if you are out of the picture, the ministry and the work of the kingdom would continue. And so certainly appreciate you sharing that and really appreciate you being here today. We really hope that this conversation has been helpful for people. Your heart, we know, is to help people lead well in ministry, help people pour into their volunteers, the very thing we're talking about today, as well as so much more. So we appreciate the work that you're doing to help church leaders with that. And for those of you listening or watching, we hope that this has been helpful. If it has, we would encourage you to share it with another church leader, whether you send them a link or hit subscribe or leave a comment or review, whatever it is, that helps us get these conversations into the ears of more church leaders and hopefully help empower more healthy churches. So thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you next time.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.